If you enjoy this video, please subscribe. Those of you who live in small towns, what is the current local controversy all about? Not current, but it needs to be documented in history: the serial catnapper. A couple lost their cat, so they went knocking door to door in our town, and came across their cat crying in a random home's front window. They call the police, who arrive and find 50 plus missing cats, along with a fucking graveyard of cats in the garden. Some that had been missing for up to 7 years. It culminated in the catnapper, a 50-plus-year-old woman, stuffing as many cats as she could in a car and going on a police chase through a little town. Most of the cats were identified and taken home, a very small few went to rescue centers, and the catnapper is currently going under mental health treatment. Apparently she just took home any cat she saw while on a walk for the last 7 years. This happened about a couple years back, but I had to tell the tale. They're still trying to figure out who is black. The village has 249 people. On the census everyone reported white except one person who reported biracial or something, and now the demographics show that the town is 0.7% black. In our small English village, someone has managed to knock over one of the speed limit signs at one end of the road. It's a mystery. Everyone is trying to guess who did it / what happened. Was it intentional? Except it's not a mystery in our house. It was my sister, and she hit it when she swerved out of the way of an oncoming car, narrow country road. We'll keep acting like we are as clueless as everyone else though. Thousands of crabs washed ashore dead, but nobody really knows why. I think they blamed wind turbines at one point. Dogs are now getting really sick, and there's warnings for people to stay away from the beach, but nobody knows why it's happening. Nothing current, but I have a great one from 5 years ago. So we had a guy who was quite the libertarian. He owned a gun store in town and pretty much kept to himself. He will be known as Lib Guy. The problem started when he decided to have chickens for his own eggs, but he lived within the city proper, which had a rule against farm animals within the city. This is a rural farming area I live in. One of the city council members, he shall be known as A-hole, discovered he had chickens a few weeks after he got them, and the city sent him a letter telling him he had to get rid of them. Well, he was not going to go down without a fight. So he spent some time looking into things and discovered the A-hole who reported him lived within the city, and he also had chickens. Well, this of course caused a bit of a scandal. The city ended up claiming there was a grandfather clause for anyone who had livestock within the city prior to the rule change 17 years ago. The problem with that was that clause applied to the A-hole's father, not the A-hole who lived at the same address. Needless to say, the war was on. A couple of weeks go by and the town cops are messing with Lib Guy over petty shit. Lib Guy somehow gets a recording of A-hole calling the police and lying to them about what Lib Guy was doing. Police now want to charge Lib Guy for some absurd, ridiculous recording law that really doesn't apply, since it was someone with the police department who gave him the tape, not that he stole it. This gets blown up to the point where the bigger cities' news crews are now showing up to city council meetings that are being called to address this issue. These meetings are getting absurdly blown out of proportion, and in all honesty somewhat slimy and shaky in how the city is handling it. Lib Guy subpoenas the city council emails to show there was a concerted effort to fuck with him and cover for A-hole. Well, in the course of getting the emails, it was discovered that there was a sexting issue going on between 3 of the city council members. Lamau, believe me when I say this did not involve people that would be considered sexy. All 3, 2 women and 1 male, were married, £200 plus, and in their 50s. I mean emails about double dildos, pegging, swinging, etc. It was hilarious. In the end, the Lib Guy got the last laugh. He lost his chickens but found a loophole where he could actually own llamas in the city, since they were not considered livestock. So he put up a fence all around his yard, ugly chicken wire fence, just tall enough so the llamas could not get out by jumping. People actually would go by walking their dogs and pet the llamas. The problem though was that llamas shit like cows, and it stinks in such a small enclosure. This went on for about a year until he sold his house and moved. It stunk for at least a block around his property, and he lived right behind the town's grocery store. Two of the council members involved got divorced over the sexting issue, and the third one sold her bar because of it. This was the infamous chicken scandal that plagued my town of 4K for 3 years. One guy started a home edition without getting the required permitting, then threatened to beat up the mayor when confronted about it. The mayor backed down and let him do it. That spread around town, so others have also threatened the mayor to be able to build shit they shouldn't, so now all the hillbilly types in town are just doing whatever they want with their yards and houses, which is starting to cause problems as they dig and cut various things underground, because of course they aren't calling to get surveyed for where all the buried infrastructure is. Car was spotted in a field burnt to a crisp on New Year's Day. Found around noon since nobody was out and around. Farmer finally drove by and called the landowner to see if he knew about it, which he did not. Hearing that, he approached the vehicle until he was about 20 feet away and noticed a burnt body next to it. He then called 911. Nothing was known about who it was till a missing person was reported later that day. Car and body were so burnt no identifying could be done immediately. 2 cameras caught the whole thing from local farm grain bins. Video showed the car in the field and then light moving as if it was stuck and trying to get out. Assumptions are the catalytic converter started the fire, but no one knows for sure. All happened at around 2 a.m. Not much controversy, but definitely the talk of the town. Funeral for the man was a week and a half ago. The last thing that was super polarizing in my town was a painting on the front of a toy store called Inland Octopus. In our downtown. It was an octopus playing with a bunch of toys. Well, our town is very strict about our old school downtown. They ordered them to paint over it with brick orange paint. The store owner said hell no, and it went to court for weeks. All the while the city was charging a huge fine every single day the painting stayed. A couple of the local millionaires kept paying the fine. They didn't care about the painting. They just liked the drama and liked to stick it to the city. Eventually the toy store lost, and now it's just a huge ugly brick orange wall in the middle of downtown. Us locals still talk about now and then. But at the time it was an uproar. There's a llama on loose in this town. The police can't catch it. The Humane Society can't locate it. And no one is claiming ownership of it. It's been sighted in several locations on the outskirts of town where there are multiple small farms. Sometimes it wanders into town and peruses through people's yards. People have complained to the police, who claim they can't corral it as it's the wily coyote of llamas. It just doesn't want to be caught.